For some reason, she feels like she can't trust me, and I just think it's a good idea for her to just talk to my husband about it.
They call it confidence. But what if Elizabeth and Andrei's power couple act is really just a masterclass in insecurity? There's a special place in the reality television ecosystem for couples like Elizabeth and Andrei, the kind who mistake arrogance for confidence and manipulation for marital teamwork. Together, they have refined the art of self-importance to a grotesque science. Watching them operate is like observing a two-person cult. They worship only themselves, demand unwavering loyalty from others, and interpret every challenge as jealousy. Elizabeth, once a passably likable participant in the chaos of her family franchise, has now evolved, or rather devolved, into a full-fledged bully. There's a gleam in her eye when she toys with someone more sensitive, particularly Lauren. The amusement she derives from watching others squirm suggests not confidence, but a deep and festering insecurity. It's the oldest trope in the book, the mean girl who never outgrew the cafeteria. Andrei's influence has only amplified the worst in her. His particular brand of bravado, equal parts inflated ego and immigrant chip on the shoulder, has turned their marriage into a smug alliance. They are, in every sense, mirror images. He bellows his superiority. She whispers hers behind a smile. Both rely on belittling others to maintain the illusion of strength. It's a partnership built not on love or respect, but on mutual delusion. Their behavior reads as painfully insecure masquerading as self-assurance. Elizabeth, for all her pretensions, has long seemed consumed by jealousy toward her sisters, women who manage to appear more polished, more successful, more socially agile. Not that her sisters are paragons of grace. They too seem trapped in a family culture of toxicity, fueled by envy, resentment, and a shared addiction to attention. When one grows up in a household where public squabbling is a family pastime, it's no wonder that emotional immaturity becomes a survival skill. Elizabeth's attempts to present as the serene, reasonable sister are betrayed by every flicker of her expression. The mask of composure slips often, most notably when she's forced to confront her own dishonesty. She delights in duplicity, feeding information to Andrei and then feigning innocence when the fallout arrives. Her habit of weaponizing private conversations reveals a woman more interested in dominance than friendship. In her world, intimacy exists only to be exploited later for sport. Physically, she has become the unfortunate embodiment of her father's features, and the family resemblance is impossible to ignore. Her critics, often viciously, call attention to her appearance, but the more damning reflection is emotional rather than aesthetic. She has inherited not just his chin, but his opportunistic nature. The apple, in this case, didn't fall far from the patriarch's real estate portfolio. Andrei, for his part, remains a textbook narcissist, performatively masculine, quick-tempered, and endlessly self-justifying. Beneath the chest-beating lies a mediocrity he's desperate to conceal. Were it not for Elizabeth's father's money, he might still be yelling at a Moldovan mechanic over minimum wage disputes. Instead, he yells at Americans on camera, an upgrade in visibility, if not dignity. He lost tens of thousands of dollars through reckless schemes, yet somehow emerged unscathed, forgiven by the very wife he so openly disrespects. It's remarkable how forgiving a woman can be when her ego is tied to keeping up appearances. Elizabeth's problem is not merely that she's cruel, it's that she cloaks cruelty in justification. When confronted with the consequences of her actions, betraying a friend's confidence, for instance, she retreats into a familiar deflection. Talk to my husband. The phrase is less delegation and more intimidation. She uses Andrei as both shield and sword, unleashing him to handle confrontations she orchestrated but lacks the courage to resolve. It's a cowardly strategy, masquerading as marital unity. The tell-all promises to be an exercise in schadenfreude. Watching Yara's poised irritation collide with Andrei's mockery of her husband will be the kind of reality TV anthropology that keeps psychologists in business. Elizabeth and Andrei's smugness will undoubtedly be on full display. They thrive in environments where civility has died. One can already predict the exchange. Yara's icy dignity against Elizabeth's brittle composure. Andrei bellowing from the sidelines like an overcaffeinated bodyguard. The irony, of course, is that their sense of superiority is born of deep inferiority. People secure in themselves do not blink furiously through every conversation, nor do they conspire to make others feel small. Elizabeth's entire demeanor, tight smile, darting eyes, performative calm, betrays a woman who is constantly measuring her worth against others. She lives in the exhausting pursuit of appearing unbothered while clearly unraveling. Their shared narcissism has become their brand. They flaunt an image of domestic bliss and financial success that collapses under the faintest scrutiny. Neither seems to work in any meaningful way, yet they pontificate about responsibility and discipline. They deride others as lazy or jealous, while living comfortably off Elizabeth's father's money. The hypocrisy would be laughable if it weren't so tediously consistent. Their contempt for criticism is equally predictable. To question them is to invite accusations of envy. It's a familiar psychological defense. If everyone else is jealous, then no one can hold them accountable. Yet the truth is glaring. These are not envied people. They are pitied ones. They wear their insecurities like armor, mistaking defensiveness for confidence and cruelty for control. What makes Elizabeth particularly grating is the disconnect between her presentation and her behavior. She fashions herself as a gracious hostess, the reasonable center of chaos. Yet every word and gesture reveals spite. Her humor always lands just slightly too hard. Her honesty always cuts just a little too deep. She is the friend who smirks during your breakdown, then insists she was just joking. There's also an unmistakable undercurrent of desperation. The reality TV spotlight is fading, and Elizabeth seems increasingly willing to stir conflict just to stay relevant. Her manipulations, pitting friends against one another, feigning outrage, conveniently leaking private conversations, suggest someone who understands that infamy is better than obscurity. The audience may despise her, but they're still talking about her. And for some people, that's enough. Andrei's complicity is total. His aggression enables her cruelty, while her loyalty excuses his failures. Together, they form a toxic feedback loop, each validating the other's worst instincts. When he shouts, she smirks approvingly. When she schemes, he defends her honor. It's less a marriage than a mutually destructive performance. Their dynamic infects everything around them: family, friendships, even the group chemistry of the show. They thrive in environments poisoned by tension because chaos gives them purpose. The moment peace breaks out, they manufacture a new grievance. They are the spark and the gasoline, endlessly proud of the fires they light. At the end of it all, what remains is a portrait of two deeply unhappy people pretending otherwise. Their smiles are rehearsed, their affection performative, their confidence brittle. Behind the bluster and the Botox lies a simple truth. Elizabeth and Andrei are terrified of irrelevance. They have built a fragile empire of vanity, and every episode is another brick in a monument to their own insecurity. Perhaps the most telling detail is this. Despite all their bravado, neither commands genuine respect from their peers. The other couples may humor them, but no one truly likes them. They are tolerated the way one tolerates mosquitoes at a barbecue. Unpleasant, unavoidable, and destined to overstay their welcome. In the world of 90 Day Fiancé, where egos bloom like algae, Elizabeth and Andrei have carved out a special niche. They are not villains in the traditional sense. They lack the self-awareness for that. They are petty tyrants, fueled by envy and sustained by delusion, convinced that their cruelty is charisma. And as long as the cameras keep rolling, they will keep performing, mistaking the audience's horror for admiration. The tragedy and the comedy is that they genuinely believe they are the heroes of their own story. When love curdles into ego, the cameras never blink. Stay tuned.